My name's Helen Westwood. I'm with the Professional Standards and Safety Unit of the Australian Services Union here at our New South Wales ACT branch. I wish to begin by acknowledging that I'm joining you today from the land of the Gadigal people of the Darug Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present and thank them for their custodianship and care of our land. I also want to acknowledge our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members who are joining us here today. Of course, wherever you're joining us from today, it is also, if you're joining us from Australia, of course, you're also on Aboriginal land. It always was and it always will be Aboriginal land. Now, I'd really love today to actually begin by introducing our panellists, and I really want to thank them for participating in this ASU College webinar. I believe it will be of great interest to our ASU members in the community and disability sector. And we're really pleased that we've actually got 4 ASU members who've worked in the community and disability sector for a number of years. I'm sure they're probably going to mention how long they've been in the sector, but my guess is combined they've been in the sector for many decades. So they've got many years of experience to speak with us about today. And importantly, our panellists also work in different roles within the sector. So I think hearing about their career experiences are going to be of such interest to workers in the sector. I also think it's particularly of interest to those ASU members who are early in their careers or those who are considering or contemplating a change in their current role, or those of you who are just really planning their own career path in this crucial and evolving sector. Can I begin by introducing Bernie O'Hearn? Bernie works with young people in out-of-home care in a residential setting. Hi, Bernie.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Christine Duggan, I'd like to introduce. Christine actually works with women in an alcohol and other drugs residential service, and she's the CEO of her service. Hi, Christine.
Hi.
And Josephine Riccici. Josephine works with migrant and refugee settlement services. She works in one of those really crucial organisations, and she supports women. And our fourth panellist is Patricia Abrahams. Patricia works with people with disability, providing a range of supports, including supported independent living to NDIS participants. And she's also the CEO of the not-for-profit disability organisation that she works for. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you.
And I should mention that all of our panellists are actually based, they're in Sydney-based organisations, although I know some of those organisations do provide services beyond the Sydney metropolitan area. So look, I've got my beginning question that I wanted to ask each of you is about how you actually came to the community and disability sector. It'd be interesting to know, was it through the education path that you chose, a degree or a certificate or diploma course, or was it through your own life experience that made you perhaps aware of the value of the work in our sector or the kind of work that is done in our sector? Perhaps you volunteered or you learned about the sector through a work experience placement. Maybe it was something entirely different. So we'd love to hear a little bit of that from each of you to begin with. And secondly, then, if you could also perhaps talk about the current role that you're in and some of the other roles that you've had during your career that you think might be of interest to other ASU members. Could I begin with you, Josephine? Why did you choose to work in this sector?
Yeah, great question. I've always been a troublemaker, or a fire starter, as my husband calls me. That's his nickname. And I think it's always been because I've always been that person and that kid when I was younger who always asked, but why? Like, but why is it that way? Like, why do we do things this way and that way? And that led me to following a career path through my studies. So after I left high school, I went in and did a Bachelor of Social Science with a criminology major at university. And when I studied that course, it was a brand new, and to be honest, it wasn't the greatest educational experience. My subjects were spread over like 3 different campuses, like they were at Bankstown, Richmond, and Penrith, and there was no formal placements back then. So basically, me and my classmates, we graduated and we were unemployable. So unless you wanted to go and work at DCJ or Docs and Fax as it was back in the day, and I knew I didn't want to do that because I'd already experienced or witnessed and heard from people who were older and had more experience in the sector, that like Docs and Facts definitely had this burn and churn kind of mentality to getting new recruits in, slamming them with really intense hard work, and then once they had enough, just letting them go, sort of thing. So after a year of searching and being rejected, I decided to go back to study at TAFE, and I completed a 2-year diploma in community services work. And that was really confusing for my TAFE educators and my fellow students there, like, because they're like, why did you need to go back to TAFE after completing a university degree? But I explained to them how that degree at the time, it didn't have the work placement stuff, whereas now the diploma, I can get some hands-on experience that was really great, and it helped me shape my career path. And I'm glad that I'd taken that time to do that, because I think it was really important. But also what it's done is as a worker, I really value student placements, and I make sure that I embed that in any of the organizations that I work with, and valuing the input that students can have. So credit to the union for getting placements paid as well. I think that's a huge win for us as well. A little bit about what I'm doing now. So I'm now currently the Assistant Country Director of Jesuit Refugee Service Australia. JRS is a global Catholic organisation, and we have offices in 58 countries. But here in Australia, what we do is we provide services to people seeking asylum, migrants and refugees in situations of vulnerability. And my journey to where I got to began from a student placement, as I said, at a little women's community centre in Mount Druitt called the Wash House, and I was in a community development role there. And then from that work and from being there for about 9 years, I noticed that the community that we were serving was changing, but we weren't necessarily responding and pivoting the way that we worked to respond to the new and emerging communities that were coming from migrant refugee backgrounds and for people seeking asylum and things like that. And so then the opportunity came to lead a program at JRS called the Finding Safety Project, which was a specialist sexual and gender-based violence prevention and response program. And it bridges the knowledge, practice and capacity gaps between DFE and women, like mainstream women's services, and the immigration sector. And I was like, yes, this is the missing piece that I needed back when I was at the Wash House. So I was so glad that I was able to have that experience and come into that specialized place. And then ever since then, I've kind of fallen into different roles at JRS. So from there, I took on the head of accompaniment and service, which is head of all of our frontline services. And then from there, I stepped in last year into the acting country director role, which is the CEO role. And I held that over a time of transition, restructure, strategic revisioning, and aiming to build a sustainable future for our organisation. And so now I've stepped back into an assistant country director and head of accompaniment service role. So still holding a million hats, as we all do in the community sector. But yeah, I hope that's kind of given a bit of an idea of how I've come to be where I am today.
Yeah, it certainly has. And I think that, like, I found what was really interesting, it was that you had that experience of different types of services too, which again is a real characteristic of our sector. You know, you've got small orgs, large orgs, locally based, centrally managed. So yeah, that's I think a really great introductory picture for us. Thank you so much, Josephine. Bernie, can I turn to you now? Can you tell us what it was that brought you to the sector?
Working in out-of-home camp, I started my career at 18, so I just turned 18.
Oh.
And I was in got a job at a country refuge, which we'd have up to 8 young people. both male and female, and we worked alone for a 24-hour shift at that time. So you had up to 8 kids, 24-hour, and then you'd swap over. So I continued in. I really, really liked that. I did then come to Sydney, and I felt that I still wanted to be in that sector. And the biggest reason was from my life experience as a teenager myself who was homeless, and I was homeless from 12, and just the people that helped me along the way. So I wanted to give back to our young people who, for whatever reason, weren't able to be with their birth families or extended families. So I've been in the sector over 40 years now. I didn't have any formal qualifications when I started, but I felt that my life experience enabled me to work with these young people at the time. I've since gone on and done a Bachelor of Education, which I didn't take that up as a teacher. I did spend 2 years in the disability sector as a manager, but I was drawn back to youth. So I'm still a frontline worker. I don't want to be anything else but a frontline worker. There's been opportunities to be house managers and to go on and in other aspects. But my belief is I'm important to young people. So staying in that part of my career, I've still got kids that I had, 40 years ago are in contact, and they've got their own families. And that's why I do what I do, because I know that we do make a difference. So long and short of it is education is important, but it's only part. You need to have yourself a reason for doing what you're doing, because it is challenging at times, and our young people are disrespectful, can be violent, do have significant behaviours. But if you believe in what you're doing and you pass that on and the young people feel safe, that's when you're making the difference. So that's why I've stayed basically as the frontline worker.
Thank you, Bernie. That like, I have to say that your story is one that it's really timely, because we know that right now, here we are in September 2025, and we've got our case on at the moment before Fair Work, Skilled, Respected, Equal. And one of the things that we've been really strongly pointing out is that in our sector, it's not just about qualifications. It's about skills and knowledge and expertise, and so often they're gathered through life experience, your lived experience, and then your experience as a worker. And I think you've just illustrated that, so strongly. So thank you so much. That's again a very different path to Josephine, but again, just illustrates the diversity of the workforce that our sector has and relies upon. Patricia, can I come to you now, and perhaps you can tell us about why it is that you've chosen to work in this sector?
Thank you so much, Helen, and hi everyone. It's great to be here today. When I think about how I came into this sector, the community and disability service sector, for me, it was a combination of both personal experiences and also the connection from those personal experiences to form or explore more professional pathways. I grew up in Carlingford, and I was 5 years old. My mum never drove, and being migrants, I got the bus when I was 5 years old. And as a child, I was really shy. So I was naturally drawn to a group of high school students from Roland Hassel School, and they had intellectual disability. And I travelled on the bus with them every single day, sat in the seats with them, felt so comfortable and so connected at a young age. And I just loved their company and their warmth. And it taught me a lot about relationships, and I've always just gravitated to that, and just the sense of connection. And, you know, that sort of really guided me to my studies. So when I finished Year 12, I didn't really know what to do. I started doing a bachelor degree of health information management in IT at, you know, Sydney Uni, and I didn't like that, so I discontinued in my third year. And then I went into a Bachelor of Applied Science and Health Sciences, and during my university placement, I first worked at hospital settings, and then I went to, I think it was Mercy Family Centre back then. And that's when I met Angelique Sasagi, who also is, you know, a member of the ASU. And she was such a great inspiration. And I just loved what she did. I loved the program. I actually felt that, and at the time it was disability support work while I was studying, and I loved it, and it was meaningful and had so much fun. And then over the years, I've had the privilege of working in very different roles, and also furthering my studies as well, but just working in many different roles with some fantastic people along the way, and that really set the foundation in building those relationships and those groundwork skills. And then from there I moved into, as I said, many different roles as a coordinator, then moved into a management role and furthered my skills along the way into leadership roles, and hence the role that I'm in now. So yeah, that was my journey.
Again, the importance of lived experience, or your experience as a younger person, you know, that led you into your career path. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for that, Patricia. And Christine, can I ask you to tell us about your path to the sector?
You can. Hi, everybody. Where do I even start? So I've been in the sector for over 25 years. I'm currently the CEO of a service called Guthrie House. We work with women involved in the criminal legal system, directly coming out of custody, and we're a drug and alcohol service where they can come with their children. I started very similar to Bernie when I was a teenager. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I was singing in a band. That's what I wanted to do. Nothing else, just that. And my parents told me that if I didn't go to uni, I would have to find somewhere else to live. So I picked any degree. I didn't care. And it happened to be a Bachelor of Community Services that I had no interest in. And I did that, and I sang in my band. And when I graduated, I was told I had to get a job in the sector or I'd have to find somewhere else to live. And I just wanted to sing in my band. But a job came up at Mount Druitt Blacktown Family Support, and I started working there. A woman that I was working with worked at a service called Marist Youth Care back then. It's now been rebranded to Marist 180. And she told me that as a youth worker, you could earn thousands of dollars a week and you wouldn't have to work that much. And I'm like, wow, I could do that and sing in my band. She lied. So I worked at Marist for almost 10 years. And so when people say to you, why do you join this sector? I don't usually give the whole story, because for me, it's not about why I joined or how I got there. It's why I stayed. And it wasn't because my band was unsuccessful, which we stayed. No, I stayed because for me to have this opportunity to walk alongside people, to be privileged enough to earn their trust, to be able to have fun, to get vicarious resilience through these outstanding humans is what I live for. It's what I starve for. My journey hasn't just been Guthrie. It was Marist for 10 years. And then I went on to other youth homelessness services for 16 years. And then I was made redundant. And I went, okay, I want to do something different. And so I worked for Headspace, and I got to travel around Australia working with education teams, in wellbeing teams in schools that have been impacted by suicide deaths. And then after that, I worked at DCJ, don't judge me, in child protection for 2 years. And then I wanted to go back to a for-purpose service for an NGO, which there's questions about that later, which we can get into, but I love NGOs. I've landed here for about 8 years, and I continue to just love the work I do. One of the takeaways from this session is that what's brilliant about our sector is there is such variety in what we can do. So if you can find something that aligns with your values, if you can find something that is fun for you, then do that until it's not, and then pick something else in the sector that you can do, because it's amazing. I love it. Anyway, thanks, Helen.
Thank you, Christine. And Christine, if I can stay with you for our next question,
Yeah.
can I ask you what do you think are the skills or experience that you have found that are most essential for the role that you have in the community, and some of those other roles as well that you've already described?
Yeah, absolutely. Curiosity. So I have intense curiosity for everything and everyone in the work that we do. I think that helps me to maintain empathy and compassion when I'm working on my day-to-day, because I really want to get to know people. I want to understand where they've been. There's a whole life before they walk through my office door. There's a lot of strengths and skills that they have developed over this time to get to this point where they're in my office. So I'm curious about that. Flexibility, 100%. We will all go into our days and have it all plotted out what we're going to do, and know that you've got to chuck that out the window on some days and just roll with it. So flexibility is something that's really assisted my practice throughout the last couple of decades. And don't do the math on how old I am, because that's just rude.
Can I ask you, Josephine, perhaps the same? What skills and experience do you think are essential in the roles that you've been in?
Yeah. So I believe that it's really essential to have a strong foundational understanding and also comfort in both acknowledging and being able to dismantle systemic oppression and stuff like that. The reason why we're all doing what we do is because our world is not set up in a way that's equitable, just, fair for the people that need it the most. So I think anyone working in the community services needs to understand things like concepts like colonization, and importantly, what decolonization looks like. You need to be able to recognize and resist patriarchy and misogyny. You need to be able to recognize and resist white supremacy, racism, and dehumanization. And particularly sort of white supremacy, which seeps into so much of what we do, like our governance structures and funding contracts and the way the government makes decisions about working within community and stuff like that. So the problem is that it's tricky stuff to learn about, because it's tricky stuff to learn about because it's rarely covered in a meaningful way in sort of theoretical application. Two, it's community services really haven't done the work individually and collectively to embed this into strategies. I wouldn't say, some have and some are probably working towards it. And thirdly, because it also calls on us to sit with the discomfort of our own sort of privilege and acknowledging the ways that it shapes us as workers and stuff. But I can tell you that that organizations and I think community organizations do this better than probably any other sort of sector, but that are courageous enough to hold themselves truly accountable to resisting and responding to these systems of oppression. They make the best workplaces because they make, they're safe. Because we're able to have these conversations, we're able to sit in that discomfort in a trusted, safe way. And that's where impact is, and that's where the best outcomes for all our service users are. And it's absolutely worth seeking out quality professional development, working within these kind of frameworks of decolonization, anti-racism, anti-capitalism, feminism, all of those sorts of things that are not necessarily the traditional kind of skills and expertise, but they really are essential, I think, in community work.
Thanks, Josephine. Patricia, can I ask you what qualifications or training are important to have? And I know, like, as a CEO of an organisation that provides a range of services as well as the roles you've had, you may have some insights into what you think, what sort of qualifications or training are really important in these roles.
Thank you, Helen. I think some of the most important skills are certainly looking at, if we were to look at what you can bring as a person. So if we looked at those skills, so things like the empathy, being able to be adaptable, being able to be flexible, and also a strength and I guess a resilience as well, because and it really, I guess those are the skills that are so important, because irrespective of what position that you have within an organisation, they're all really critical and they're all really relevant to frontline roles, to volunteering as well. So just having those skills there and being able to establish relationships. In terms of qualifications, levels of experience. So, those things are also quite important. But I think just if you were assessing that and thinking there's so much scope within community services and disability, and I think one of my other colleagues on the panel, I think it was Bernie, that said, before you start, there are always other opportunities to, either progress within or look outside of. And I think it's looking at what you're really interested in and what your passion is as well. Because if you are drawn to, I guess it's working and having relationships with people that are really important and looking at what connects you and what is passionate, because there are just so many roles out there. But I guess, strong communication skills as well. And these are things that you also develop along the way through experience. So you might look at something and think, oh, do I have that skill set? Or looking at, a job advertisement, and I think we're hardest on ourselves, but there's also scope to learn. And if you've got a good support network, and if you have the passion there, I think that that's really important.
Thanks, Patricia. Bernie, I know that you said that you've remained as a frontline worker, you've had other roles, but that's where your passion is and that's where you want to remain. But you also talked about other opportunities you've had. So I'm wondering, like, as someone who's chosen to be a frontline worker, do you think for others there are opportunities for career growth and advancement in the sector? Have you seen that in your experience?
Well, yes and no. The panel's a lot of all of these options, and it's in say in the out of home care sector, there is a chance for advancement, and you've got to look at yourself and what you want to bring to the sector. And as a frontline, I want to bring, my experience as a house manager, that you can go into a house manager role where you're still working with young people, but you're supporting a team of people. So, and then you have your therapeutic specialist who looks at all the behaviour management, and you've got a caseworker that manages, their leaving care plan and everything, their medical and their education. So there's a whole lot of different roles. But when you look at it, we're all doing the same thing for our young people. So we're all going in the same direction, and we're all supporting in education, we're all supporting in their behaviour management, in their medical. So there is advancements, and I think you have to look into yourself, what you want to get out of it, and what are your strengths. And it comes back to being honest about yourself, to what you're capable or what part you want to play in a team of people. And they say it takes a village to raise young, children. It takes a really, really good team with lots of different, everyone has a different strength to raise our young people in care. And they're marginalised. They're in care already. So training, I think training more than you have to have a diploma now, but training, ongoing training where you might start to feel stuck and then you can come together and do some training and network, and it gives you that next energy boost to continue on for the next couple of months. So for me, I personally believe people should come and get some guidance of older workers and see whether that's what they want to do, and then move on. And some people are really good house managers. Some people are really good at the casework. But from my experience and with the teams that I've worked with, that frontline and that you see them leave at 18, and it's an experience that it never gets tiring. So I hope that sort of answers it in some way.
No, it does. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Christine, I'm just wondering too, in your role as a CEO, and I know you've talked about the other roles you've had, do you think there are opportunities in the sector for career growth and advancement that you could speak to?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I suppose it depends on how you would define career growth and advancement. So if you're working for a larger organization and you're looking at a linear management line up the hierarchy, there absolutely are options for that. Management skills are considered to be transferable. So if you're working in youth services, for example, and then there's no coordinator positions, then there's other services that have that, so you can transfer across there. But for me, it's more than that. So I was pushed into different roles, and I did that at the time because I was looking for something else, or I was wanting to challenge systems and felt that I could do that in a different position. And so I would apply for that. But for me, advancement and career growth is really personal, and it's about putting myself out of my comfort zone. So not sticking with the same thing for too long. And this isn't for everybody, but this is what it is for me. I did 16 years in youth homelessness, and then felt that I really knew what I was doing. And when I branched out of that, I realized I know nothing. And every time I change roles, I realize how limited I am in my knowledge. But that's how I grow, and that's how I develop, and that's how I get better as a worker, is trying different things, different sectors, with professional development, not being reliant on my organization to lead my own professional development. Like, I lead that. What am I interested in? What do I want to do? What are the gaps in what I'm offering to my service and my clients at that time? And then I will follow that through myself. And then it comes down to, and I'm going to sound really flippant, but to boredom for me as well. So I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I need something shiny to keep me moving forward. And yeah, professional development for me is that, and trying new things is that.
Thank you. Josephine, can I ask you, from your experience in the sector, what can you share with someone starting their career in this sector that you think may have helped you at the beginning of your sector career?
The community services sector is, I reckon, it's a career here is the most rewarding career. You're making a real difference in the lives of the most vulnerable people, like the people who've been made most vulnerable by the systems of oppression that I mentioned earlier. And we're the ones who are working against those systems, and we're creating the world that they won't create, that, because the world is unjust for so many. But here we are working and alongside real people and creating real change with them for that better future. And I know that it's very rose-colored glasses and stuff like that, but it's also kind of that it's badass, like I said earlier, is that for the people who are hungry for not just sitting staying put and stuff like that, that aren't satisfied with the status quo. A career in the community is the place to be, where you can actually affect change in so many different ways. Like you're creating capacity where there wasn't before for communities to own and respond to their own needs. You're working alongside, like the collaboration is absolutely key in our, like we can't get the work done if we don't work with one another. So you've got to be innovative, and you've got to be really creative, and you've got to build relationships, build partnerships, and all of that sort of stuff. You've got to touch, like you're using your whole brain. There's no, it's just always go, go, go. There's so much variety and things like that. I think the one thing that I would sort of also say is that, like, be courageous, and be comfortable knowing that, that sometimes, like Christine said, is that if values start shifting or no longer aligning, that's okay. And it's great that you can identify that, find a new place to go, because that's where you're going to feel more fulfilled, and the community will benefit from you more so. Always be keeping in touch with yourself and how you're feeling, and explore and be brave and take risks and do all the things, and always don't stop learning, really, and learn from other people, and particularly learn from the people who come after you as well. I think that's another thing that I've sort of taken on, is like, the previous generations, there was that mentality of, look, we know how it runs. We've been doing this for 40 years and this has always worked for us, and all of that. And it was always really challenging to have conversations and shifting that sort of mentality. So as you progress and you gain more experience, make sure that we don't repeat those same sort of mistakes, and really get insights from the ones that come after us as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That is a great insight. Thank you for that. Patricia, can I ask you, what are the most rewarding and challenging aspects of this work?
The most rewarding aspects are the relationships, and also seeing the real and very tangible, I would say, impact of our work. And I think everyone, for me as a CEO, it is so rewarding also to not only help, I guess, assist clients to achieve their personal goals and to make a real impact in their lives, but it's also equally wonderful just to see our staff grow, and for them to be able to realise their aspirations, and to see the incredible work that they do. Because if it wasn't for our wonderful staff, our frontline workers, our coordinators, our managers, we wouldn't be able to deliver on our mission. So for me, that's the most incredible, I guess that's the most incredibly fulfilling, to witness those moments and growth. The challenges in my role at the moment is also navigating the changing NDIS space. It's also navigating system barriers, and those challenges are quite real. But I think the way that we overcome those challenges is certainly, and the system barriers, and all that we have to face is working together collaboratively. So everybody in the organisation, being able to advocate, being able to innovate and continually improve. And that's for the people that we support, but also in terms of our staff, making sure that our staff have the resources that they need to be able to deliver. So I think it's a very much a collective and a very team effort. And when it is collective, and you can just see, for me, it's just seeing the personal growth of the participants that we support, and the wonderful things that staff are able to achieve, and just celebrating those. It's very rewarding.
Thank you. Bernie, can I also ask you, what are the most rewarding and challenging aspects of the work that you do?
Well, Patricia covered a lot, so that was really good. It's sort of coming in after these wonderful panels. I think rewarding wise, as I mentioned before, is years after our young people have left the system, and you connect back to see that, you know, the trauma that they went through and being marginalised, all of that they've got their families, and you know, you're introduced to the next generation of children, and that they're not making the same mistakes that, say, you know, family may have made. They've really grasped moving forward. And for me, that's what keeps me going, is that I love seeing that after effect of the hard work. And, you know, we get a bad rap in the news at the moment, our home care, but people believe in what they're doing, and we have to work within a system that we don't always like, doesn't always match, doesn't always work for our young people, doesn't work for the staff, but we continue to struggle and to keep going. Challenging aspects is, you know, formulating those relationships with young people, and at times that's very different. They're shut down, they're aggressive, they don't want to form relationships because they don't want to be hurt again.
Mm.
So being able to keep that relationship going and to be able to mould, and I always say to the young people, I'm not your friend, but I'm your mentor, and I'm here to teach, and I will support and guide. And that's what we teach younger people coming through. Don't try and be a friend, because our young people are relying on you to be the adult and to make their life secure for them and to keep them on the right road, if possible. I mean, young people have their own minds. And the other thing I find challenging at the moment is a lot of our training is online. And when you don't get to network, you don't get to talk to other workers in other houses, and I think it makes you stale. When I first started, we had a lot of face-to-face training, and I think we need to get back to that face-to-face, because it renews you, it gives you the energy. If you don't have the energy, and you're just clicking through to get to the answer at the end to see if you passed and you can move on to the next one, it makes it really difficult, because we have to be motivated to motivate our young people. So, and the rest, I think that everybody else has answered.
Thanks, Bernie. And you really sort of touched on something I think leads in to the next question that I wanted to ask, and I was going to go to Josephine for this. What support systems are available to you and to other workers that you've seen, and what would you recommend for new workers?
Yeah, I think so what we've got available to us is external supervision, which is really, really important. And one of the things that I did in my previous workplace was advocate for myself. I was in a community development role, and external supervision wasn't available to me because I wasn't seen at this time as providing a face-to-face client-facing sort of role. But I argued that actually what I was doing was I was out there in the community seeing and witnessing and accompanying people in their communities and stuff like that. It was very much at the front line within the communities and stuff. Like, I couldn't do my job if I didn't know who these people were inside and out, really. So the need to be able to unpack the broader picture of what was happening to these people, because of course counsellors and caseworkers and stuff like that are seeing the minutiae and the crisis and all of that sort of stuff. I'm seeing all of the complex barriers and challenges that people are navigating every single day in their lives, and that also impacts us, because it's unfair and it's unjust, and we're part, we as in our community and our society is part of the reason why these people are facing these challenges and stuff. So that was all very complicated. And so I advocated for myself to access external supervision to be able to unpack all of that, and the feelings of inadequacy and not doing enough, like, you know, when there was so much wrong that needed to be righted, really. But now, additionally, on top of that, we've got access to EAPS, like the employee assistance scheme, and I've used that in both, like, as a frontline worker, but also as in the manager support. And I have to say, like, if you're that manager support, EAPS has been amazing. Like, honestly, it's really helped me through, like, some really challenging situations of really critical times of making important decisions that impact the team and the structure of the organization, the way that we move forward and things like that. Like, yeah, I can't stress enough how important it was to speak to someone who could listen and could hear and could help me unlock language that I needed to just, like, understand what was going on for me, and also give me the sort of, like, the tools that I could use to navigate really challenging times and stuff. So I definitely say, like, please, like, utilize those services and supports, and if you don't have access to them, advocate to get access to them, because they're really, really essential. But on top of that, I mean, the union, being part of the union has probably been the best part of a career in the community services sector. Our union is just phenomenal, and, like, even what Bernie was saying about training and that importance of having that broader sector, sort of those opportunities to talk to one another and be with one another in the sector, and they're just so incredibly important, and the union provides those opportunities for us to learn and to gain insights from one another, and to be there for one another, just to be the backing and the support, and say, you know what, like, yeah, I'm feeling the same way, like, this isn't right, we need to be doing something about this or that, you know, that it's, yeah, I can't stress enough how important our union has been to get us through some really challenging times as well. So, yeah.
Thanks, Josephine. That's really perfect timing for me to remind people, you know, if you've got colleagues who aren't members of the union, ask them, encourage them, join your union, join the ASU. We do need to advocate for ourselves. That's certainly something. I mean, many of us in the sector are advocates, and quite often we need to advocate for ourselves as well as our communities and the people that we support, to ensure that our conditions continue to be safe and satisfying and delivering the services and supports to our communities. And look, I think the other thing, and a number of you have touched on it today, is around some of the challenges that we face as workers in the sector is often about funding, you know, new governments, different policy directions. And if I go to just, you know, even the comment that Bernie made earlier about out-of-home care, there does seem to be a bit of a campaign, if I can be a little frank, around, you know, targeting the non-government, you know, sector from time to time. But I think that we could all agree, I think unfairly, I should say, but I think it's important that we also acknowledge that workers in this sector, the community and disability sector, are highly skilled and qualified, and are very keenly sought after in the corporate world and in the public sector. And I'm sure that all of you have had those offers and encouragements, you know, to move from the non-government, not-for-profit sector. So I wanted to ask each of you, if I could, and I'll start with Christine, if I can ask each of you, what is it that keeps you in the non-government, not-for-profit community and disability sector? Christine, can I start with you?
Well, I left and then I came back. So I left for 2 years. What brought me back, let's start with that, is that you had the space in the not-for-profit sector to be creative. We've talked a lot today about how to innovate and create and advocate. You can do that. If you're working in a government organisation, you identify a gap in the community or an emerging trend or something that needs to be addressed to create change. By the time you've alerted it, it goes all the way up to the top to the hierarchy, all the way back down, and everyone's moved on. So we have an opportunity in the not-for-profit space to be really timely in our responses, really creative in our responses, and meet the needs of the community as it's actually occurring. So that for me is wonderful. The flexibility, when I was at DCJ, you had to stay at the office until 5 o'clock because that's when you finished. It doesn't work for me. I don't work like that. You know, people hanging out in a tea room at 5 to 5 having a yarn because they're waiting for home time seems completely ridiculous. I find the not-for-profit sector really has this understanding around the hard work that we put in and the fact that we will stay back 2 hours. If we need to stay back for 2 hours for our clients, we will come in earlier if we need to. So we need to have flexibility and give and take. And I've been really fortunate that the organisations that I've worked with will do that, which then helps me so much in my work-life balance, which again, we haven't talked too much about that because we focus on our clients and we focus on the work we're doing in the community. But to stay in this sector for a long period of time, you need to be able to really have a solid home life self-care strategies, what you're going to be doing with yourself outside of work, and keep that balance so that you can be healthy and you can walk alongside the people that we're here to serve.
Thank you. Bernie, I know that you've touched on some of this, but I'd be interested in hearing if you've got anything else to add about what it is, you know, that keeps you in the not-for-profit, non-government sector.
I think it's because I believe in what I'm doing, and I could have gone into other roles. I could have gone into other sectors. Partly I am comfortable. So thank you, Josephine, for saying, you know, put it out there and you know, take a risk. But I like what I'm doing. I feel like I'm good at mostly I'm good at what I do. But I also think that people who believe in what they're doing will put the extra mile in. Like we have vicarious trauma. You know, supervision's not fantastic a lot of the time, which does make it difficult. But my work home life is balanced. And when I joined the union and I started doing more with the union, I found that I had more energy. That what I do with the union reflects on what I do in my job, and I care and I hate injustice. That's the biggest reason I'm in the union. So what I do with the union gives me energy for what I do in my job. And so I thank the union for that, because they've really nurtured and helped me along to grow. And by growing, I've been able to keep my energy up for what I do during the day. And then I go into my union things, and the whole thing is just to make sure that you keep your energy levels up, and whatever that helps you do that, like if it's doing union work or it's just going for a walk, you need to keep doing what keeps your energy up.
Thanks, Bernie. Patricia, what is it that keeps you in the non-government sector?
Fundamentally, I think it's the people and the purpose and the values, and it's inspiring to, you know, meet people and you have amazing relationships and you can see the growth, you see your creativity. I think that's really important, and there's always a space for that. There's always a space for that progression, and the values and culture that, you know, are not-for-profit, also different sizes as well, small, medium and large. There's a difference there. I have never worked in, I guess, a for-profit before, so I do associate with more so very much social justice principles. And that's not for any other reason other than the fact that I've always, in any position that I've applied for or any position that I've held, I'm always drawn to the purpose that sits there, and also recognising the contribution that we can make, and also we can also develop as well. Just adding to that, unions are like the ASU. It's, I guess, just so important in the sector, because sometimes as well, I think work can be very complex, and it also can be very isolating. And unions provide that guidance and that advocacy and the connection as well, to be able, because often what we find is, especially in smaller organisations or medium-sized organisations, we're all very busy investing into the people, into the purpose. And I think one of the areas that really does, I guess, support us to be where we're at is certainly the advocacy, and the strength of the ASU, not only to help individuals, but also to improve the sectors that we're working in as well. And in terms of fairness, and in terms of impact as well. So for me, very much impact, connection with people, and the inspiration, and and I think it's the relationships that you form and that you keep, and that's why I've chosen to stay in the sector.
Thanks so much for that, Patricia. And finally, Josephine, if I could ask you, what is it that keeps you in the non-government sector?
Yeah, I'll give a really quick story that it like pretty much sums it up for me. So my organisation, along with our partner organisations in the asylum seekers sector, went and met with Homes New South Wales, and it happened to be during Homelessness Week, which is a period of time where we raise awareness about those who are facing different forms of homelessness, and often because of the injustice of our support system that excludes people, particularly those on temporary visas, from accessing safe housing and accommodation. Needless to say, that meeting was a bit of a disaster. The government's not really keen on excluding or expanding inclusivity for people on temporary visas. But then she decided to, this is the manager, decided to invite us all for morning tea because it's Homelessness Week. And as we were walking into the morning tea, he went, "Happy Homelessness Week, everyone." And it's that level of out of touchness that I never, ever, ever want to ever experience in my life. So that was it for me. It was like, no, thank you. Never, ever, ever will I be part of this system that allows someone to be that out of touch and that disconnected from humanity. They could say something like that. So.
Thank you, Josephine. That is a perfect story that illustrates what it is that we all so much value about working in the non-government sector. Again, can I thank you for joining us today and being our panellists, and a thank you to all of those who've attended and those who are catching up on the webinar after we've recorded it today. We hope that you have found it helpful in planning your career in the sector. And again, a big thanks to our panellists, Bernie, Christine, Josephine, and Patricia. Until our next webinar, when I hope you can join me again, I do hope you enjoy the remainder of your day, and goodbye for now. Thanks, everyone.